There we go. And there we go. We should be good. Shouldn't have anything in February. Oh, never mind. That's something. Oh, what the hell of a situation, huh? You might get something decent this week. This month. Okay, let's get in on this. Alright, let's make sure we are good on this. And then, alright, that is connected. Alright, we should be good. Damn. You know what? Give me a second here. I can go grab my laptop. Alright, let me open this up. What's going on, everybody? Give me just a second. Come on. God. There we go. All right. Let me get my mic over here. Ooh, yeah. Hold on. Get you off. And then I'm gonna move you. You're gonna be right here today. I'm gonna have you right by me because I got my laptop here. I want to pull a few things up. Come on, man. You know what it is. All right, there's that. Let me see if I can go to my... There we go. All right, let's get this going. All right, we should be good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? What is good? What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying your day. So, the Ravens continue to make progress. They continue to move forward. As expected, Jesse Minter is putting together his coaching staff. I'm not surprised. I expected the Ravens to make a huge leap this week to try to finish up their coaching hires because they do got a good chunk of spots that they need to fill up. So I was expecting them to get the defense coordinator situation figured out this week. I was hopeful it'd be earlier this week as opposed to later on this week, and as I expected, it was earlier this week, as early as today. What's going on to everybody in the chat? Lawyer, what's going on, man? Appreciate you stopping by. What's going on to everybody? So, yeah, I expected that the Ravens were going to get this done for the most part and get this hiring situation figured out with the offense coordinator and defense coordinator. Obviously, we had seen last week they hired their offensive coordinator in Declan Doyle. I believe they actually officially announced that on the Ravens Twitter page that they've hired him. So yeah, they also announced a bunch of other coaching assistant hires that they've made as well. So, this is to be expected that they were going to get this done sooner rather than later. And they finally got it done now for the defensive side. So, the Ravens go out and they hire former Dolphins defensive coordinator, former Ravens defensive line coach in Anthony Weaver. Obviously, Anthony Weaver, he was the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins the last 2 years. And obviously, prior to that, he was part of our coaching staff he was part of our coaching staff for like the 3 years he was there. Of course, he was like the defensive line coach, and then he ended up becoming like assistant head coach over the last couple years he was here. So obviously, he was part of the defense during that great 2023 season when the defense, had the Triple Crown, which again, once Mike Macdonald and the Seattle Seahawks complete the journey, I gotta find that. I gotta find that I know I liked it or maybe I posted, but I gotta find that image. Once Mike Macdonald and the Seattle Seahawks get it done against the Patriots, the 2023 Ravens will remain to be the only team in NFL history to be number one in DVOA and not only fail to make the Super Bowl, but also fail to win the championship. Every other team in NFL history that was number one in DVOA at least made it to the Super Bowl and won. The 2023 Ravens are the only team that didn't. I was like, I know I have this somewhere. Did I tweet it out? Oh, I know what I think I said January. Let me see. There we go, found it. So yeah. In the history of football, there's been 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, in the history of football, there's been 6 teams. There's been 6 teams in NFL history that finished with there was 6 teams in NFL history that finished number 1 in both overall and defensive DVOA. Because the Seahawks this previous year, they were ranked number 1 in DVOA defense, and they were also number 1 in DVOA overall as a team. So there's only been 6 times in NFL history where you've had a team be number 1 in DVOA and DVOA for their defense and number 1 in DVOA overall. There's only been 6 times in NFL history that's happened. The 1985 Bears, who won the Super Bowl. The 1996 Green Bay Packers, who won the Super Bowl. The 2002 Buccaneers, who won the Super Bowl. The 2013 Seahawks, who won the Super Bowl. The 2025 Seahawks, who may win the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens on Sunday. And the only team on this list that did not win the Super Bowl was the 2023 Ravens that lost in the conference championship. And people wonder why Ravens needed to make a change. How are you the only team on the list in NFL history to have the number 1 DVOA defense and be number 1 DVOA overall, and you didn't even sniff the Super Bowl? 2023 was generational failure beyond anything we've seen, which is why things needed to change. Like this is terrible. This is terrible. This is terrible. So people wonder why things needed to change. The Seattle Seahawks, because I talked about this, I posted this too. I was like, we're gonna see what happened with the Seattle Seahawks in a few weeks, but they joined that list of teams that was number one overall in DVOA and had the number one DVOA defense. 6 times in NFL history that's happened. The only team that's failed to reach the Super Bowl was the Ravens in 2023. And depending on how things go with the Seattle Seahawks, the 2023 Ravens will be the only team on this list in NFL history to not win the Super Bowl. That tells you how much of a generational fumble and a generational failure that 2023 defense, not 2023 defense, that 2023 team as a whole, losing the AFC Championship game in 2023 was generationally failure. That's gonna be here, and that's a big part of why the Ravens needed to make a change and why everything that's happening right now, it's hopefully gonna set this team up to win a championship, if not multiple. But yeah, I just needed to bring that up. Anthony Weaver was part of that defense in 2023 when they had the Triple Crown. So, yeah, last time he was here, the Ravens had a great D-line. They had a great front seven and actually could get to the quarterback with a four-man rush. He left after that 2023 season. In the last 2 years, our defense has suffered tremendously. Our D-line struggles to get to the quarterback, struggles to make stops consistently. They were decent in stopping the run, but in terms of rushing the quarterback, our D-line has taken a massive blow, and we can't get to anybody when we blitz. The last 2 years, our front seven has been putrid. This year was probably one of the worst, if not the worst in football. So our D-line, our pass rush as a whole has taken a massive step back since Anthony Weaver left back in 2023. But he is back. The Ravens have brought him back. It's also really funny because many of us said Anthony Weaver should be the defensive coordinator when Mike Macdonald left. When he left to go to Seattle, everyone said Anthony Weaver should be the defensive coordinator. We should look to make that lateral move. They did make that move, and we ended up with Zachary Orr. So, yeah. Once again, please tell me why the Ravens shouldn't have made changes. People are surprised. I just read out that we're the only team in NFL history to have the number one DVOA defense and the number one DVOA overall team, and we didn't even sniff the Super Bowl. That's happened 6 times. 6 times in NFL history where you've had a team be the number one DVOA defense and be the number one DVOA team of all time. That's happened 6 times in NFL history. The only team to not even sniff the Super Bowl was the 2023 Ravens. Generational failure. Generational failure. And that goes on everybody's resume. But yeah, last time we had a great D-line, and the last time we were able to rush the quarterback with a 4-man rush was when we had Anthony Weaver. So glad to have him back. The Ravens go and sign Anthony Weaver, bring him back to the Ravens, and all I can say is this right here is a great hire once again. Jesse Minter, again, finding a way to add some great pieces to this coaching staff. I am a little bit surprised. Here. Man, I really got to get the stat on my face. It's really pissing me off. Like, it's legitimately pissing me off. Generational failure. If you look at the last 6 years, and you see where the Ravens are in terms of choking and underperforming, it's frustrating. It's beyond frustrating, man. What's going on? Purple City? What's going on, man? Appreciate you stopping by. Like, looking at this stat, it's really frustrating. You know what? I don't think I've actually. I'm gonna wait till the Super Bowl's over. I think I got to do a debriefing of the 2025 NFL season as we move on to a new era. Cause like this is actually pissing me off. Seattle's gonna win the Super Bowl, and even if they don't, they're not going to be a disappointment on this damn list. How are we the only team in NFL history to have the number one overall DVOA defense and the number one overall DVOA team, and we didn't even sniff the Super Bowl? Everybody else on this list won the championship, and we lost in the AFC Championship. That is pathetic. And people wonder why Harbaugh needed to be gone. This is why you fire him. You're on this list and you couldn't get to the Super Bowl against the weakest Chiefs team we've ever seen? Man, that's a hit. That's an embarrassment, man. That's a generational failure, generational choking that goes on your head coach, that goes on your offensive coordinator, and that goes on your quarterback too. That's pathetic. How? How? What's going on, Ravens? C, appreciate you stopping by, man. Yeah, I'm gonna save this stat. I'm gonna save this stat for when I do my debriefing because it feels like a lot's gonna have to happen. I cannot believe this, bro. 2023, you really should have won the Super Bowl that year. How are you on this list and you were the only team in NFL history to not make the Super Bowl on this list? How? And you were at home. And all these other teams were at home that year. Oh my God. Generational failure. I need to do a debriefing of the 2025 season, and then I got to talk about this whole era of football because, man, these last 6 years, this team's done a lot of generational choking, generational failure, underperformance. This is why you get rid of the entire coaching staff because I'm looking at this stat right now, and this right here is exactly why you fire everybody. How do you underachieve? No way, bro. No way, man. Yeah, we got to do a debriefing of the 2025 season, and then we may have to talk about this era of Ravens football because, like, looking at this right now, this is an embarrassing stat. This is an embarrassing stat. There's 6 teams in NFL history on this list, and we're the only team that didn't even make the Super Bowl. And if Seattle wins, we will be the only team to not only not make the Super Bowl, but not win the Super Bowl. That's just poor, man. Anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. Anthony Weaver has been added to the Ravens defense. So he is going to be the new defensive coordinator. Obviously, like I said, this is a former Ravens player and a former Ravens coach. Obviously, he was a defensive line coach for the Ravens back in 2021. He ended up, being the assistant head coach. They kind of promoted him in that aspect in 2022, and he was with the team when they had their best D-line in this Lamar Jackson era. Honestly, the best D-line in the Lamar Jackson era, he was here for that. And the best defense we've had in the Lamar Jackson era in 2023, he was the defensive line coach and the assistant head coach that year. So the last time the Ravens had a great D-line and was able to legitimately generate pressure with their front seven, that was when Anthony Weaver was here. The last time we were able to get to a quarterback with a 4-man rush, Anthony Weaver was on this defensive coaching staff, and he was the one responsible to making sure our D-line could actually bring pressure and get to the quarterback. So having him back here is major. As I said, once McDonald left for Seattle, we all said Anthony Weaver is probably, if you're going to promote within, Anthony Weaver is probably the guy you want to give the job to. They waited too long. They didn't give him they ended up going with Zachary Orr. I'm pretty sure he left, and then they had to give it to Zachary Orr, or they chose Zachary Orr over Anthony Weaver. I don't fully remember the story about that, but we all were pounding the table saying Anthony Weaver should be the defensive coordinator. If you're not gonna go somewhere else, and you're gonna want to hire within the coaching staff, give Anthony Weaver the job. And the crazy part is, he was literally the assistant head coach, and he didn't get the defensive coordinator job. How? Zachary Orr was the linebackers coach. How did you let this dude walk out the door? See, oh my God, these last 2 years have been awful. We choked in 2023, historically choked in 2023, and then we let all the good coaches go. You lose Mike Macdonald to Seattle. You lose some really key pieces, like an Anthony Weaver, who was the assistant head coach, and we didn't give him the defensive coordinator job. We were stuck with Zachary Orr for 2 years. And you wonder why this team wasn't able to get anywhere. Good God almighty. Thank God we live in a different timeline where we've actually made changes and Jesse Minter's my head coach. Because I would not be here right now if things had not changed. I was not doing another year of the Harbaugh cycle as we sit here and have to deal with freaking Zachary Orr. And the worst part about it is there's a timeline where you got Ravens fans dealing with Harbaugh still being here with Zachary Orr. And keep this in mind. There's a high chance in that timeline too that Todd Monken goes and becomes the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So now we could have been in a situation where we lose Todd Monken, the only good coach we had of the 3 unit that we wanted to keep. We lose him. We still have Zachary Orr. Harbaugh's still here, and now we got to go get Cliff Kingsbury to be our I don't want to think about that. We're not in that timeline. Life's been good since Jesse Minter's been the head coach. Life's been good. The month of January as a Ravens fan has been fantastic. I've been enjoying it. I've been here so much streaming all of this process. I've been so happy, man. Life's been good. Jesse Minter's changing everybody's life. Oh my God. Shout out to Jesse Minter, bro. He ain't even started coaching these players yet, and he's already changing life in Baltimore. Remember, we also had Denard Wilson. You could have given him the defensive coordinator role. Anybody but Zachary Orr. You let Wilson walk. You let Weaver was the damn assistant head coach, and he didn't get the defensive coordinator job. That's a lateral move. We literally lost him and let him go to Miami. I don't understand this. We lost him and let him go to Miami. Why not promote him? The second McDonald walks, Anthony Weaver should have been promoted. You lose Denard Wilson. You lose Anthony Weaver. You lose Mike McDonald. No wonder the defense has stunk the last 2 years. The best you can say about the Ravens defense the last 2 years is they were average. And no, beating up on weak opponents doesn't change anything for your defense. It makes your defensive rating look better. It helps statistical-wise. It makes it look like you're one of the best defenses in football, when in actuality you're not. Because we know what you were doing. The 2023 Ravens defense had to go up against the 7th toughest schedule in the league, and they made them boys look like... Let me stop thinking about the past. At the end of the day, we lost Anthony Weaver for 2 years. He's back. He's our defense coordinator. Jesse Minter has right the wrong. And Weaver, he is back to help this defensive line get whipped into shape and to fix our defensive line, our pass rush. Finally, having a front seven that could be able to get to the quarterback will be vital. This is a great signing here by the Ravens. Well done again to Jesse Minter, who's been doing nothing but killing it. I got to give Jesse Minter credit. The coaching staff that he's bringing. The coaching staff that he's bringing right now is just... It's just fantastic, man. He's doing a great job right now. I love it, man. I love it. I love what I'm seeing here from this coaching staff. And keep this in mind, guys. We'll probably have this discussion once the coaching staff comes together. Keep this in mind. For the most part here, I don't think everyone's going to like or agree with every single coaching decision he has. And I think it's very fair and valid to have question marks about a lot of the guys they bring in. I think the biggest question mark that you would see on this team right now would have to be Declan Doyle as your offensive coordinator. Again, he's the same age as Lamar Jackson. He's never called plays. There's been nothing but praise for him and saying this guy's more than ready for this. I saw another thing from who was it? Who was the tight end? Let me see. I saw something earlier today. I knew it was Cole Kmet. So Cole Kmet, Bears tight end Cole Kmet, spoke about Declan Doyle and gave a lot of high praise to Declan Doyle, and really spoke about how important Declan Doyle was to the halftime adjustments that the Chicago Bears were making last year, which is funny because those second half adjustments were so vital to changing things. Just a quick stat here. Bears' first half offense was 20th in EPA per play, and their second half offense, as well as OT for the games that weren't overtime, they were second in EPA. So they went from 20th in EPA per play to second in the first half to second in EPA per play in the second half. And Declan Doyle plays a role in that. In terms of what Cole Kmet said about the loss of Declan Doyle to Baltimore, even though Declan didn't call plays for us, the amount of work that he did on the offensive side of football was immense. You could see that day-to-day in practices. Declan was very hands-on with all of us. Declan's the one addressing the offense at halftime, going over the openers that are going to be coming up in the second half, telling us what we need to do, what they're seeing, and how we can make adjustments. Declan was definitely a very valuable piece to us offensively. That is, That's a positive thing to say about, a very positive thing to say about Declan Doyle, and that brings some hope and optimism here about what he could do. At the same time, it's cool. It's cool to hear that, but at the same time, We still need to see it in practice. And I think when this coaching staff is at its end, where we've gotten everybody together and all the hires are made, we're gonna have an assessment of this being a fantastic coaching staff and Jesse Minter doing a fantastic job. But we won't know how great this coaching staff is until we actually see this team in action. And they got a lot of work to do. Actually have a overall aspect, which I'm looking at here to kind of see how this is going to go. I do have a whole chart that's saved up right now in regards to this. Shout out to Cole Jackson on Twitter because he's been putting together the coaching tree that the Ravens are in terms of all the spots that need to be hired. He's putting together the coaching tree of everybody that's currently on the Ravens as coaches. Obviously, offense coordinator Declan Doyle, Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator, linebackers coach Tyler Satucci, DB coach Mike Mickens, Dwayne Ledford for offensive line coach, assistant offensive line coach Sean Flattery. We just saw today that the Ravens brought in PJ Volker to be defensive assistant here. That's great in that aspect here. I think he may be. I think there was another report that says that he's going to primarily be a safeties coach, maybe. I don't know specifically, but he's coming in, so he's going to bring in some discipline. The Ravens were able, well, with Tyler Sanucci, that was somebody that was already on the roster, so on the coaching staff, they just retained him. Obviously, Randy Brown, the assistant special teams coordinator, they held on to him. And then Charlie Glemon is another person that they brought in for game management. So game management coordinator Charlie Gilman that they just brought in. So we have a good chunk of spots that have been filled up. Obviously, we need a quarterbacks coach, running backs coach, wide receivers coach. We need a D-line coach, an outside linebackers coach, a tight end coach, and we need a special teams coordinator. So there's a good chunk of hires that still remain for the Ravens, but right now Jesse Minter is putting in the work because he's putting together one hell of a coaching staff right now. Rate the head coach, offense coordinator, defense coordinator. Rate them 1 to 10. I give it like a 7 or 8. The thing about it is, if we're gonna go off of potential here, this is a 10, like a 9 or a 10. But I'm gonna be fair. I don't know what these guys are gonna do. For as much as we want to hype this up, we got to see these guys actually put in the work and change this team up. The coaching philosophy in Baltimore has shifted, and it's now under Jesse Minter. They have to enforce this coaching philosophy, and things have to change. So I won't know what this coaching staff as a whole is made of until, one, it's assembled, and two, we actually see what the players do come regular season. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 right now, just to be fair. I need to see what this coaching staff is going to do. Obviously, Jesse Minter is a huge hire. And this is really funny. A lot of people were very, I would say they were on the fence. They were very skeptical about the Jesse Minter hire because they're like, it's safe and he's another version of Harbaugh. He's not going to take risk. So we just hired another person that's from the Harbaugh tree. People keep saying this while also forgetting Mike McDonald's also from the Harbaugh tree and is in the Super Bowl. So feel free to assess that however you will. But people didn't really know what he was going to do when it came to assembling a coaching staff. And I'll say this right now. People that had those questions about him assembling a coaching staff, you got to take those back now. You got to apologize. This guy's doing a fantastic job in bringing in the best possible guys. Like getting Mike Mickens from Notre Dame, nobody else was going to pull him out. Nobody else was going to pull him out. PJ Volker, to bring him in as a defensive assistant, he's in Maryland. He lives in Maryland. People thought that Jesse Minter might try to convince him to go to the Chargers, but buddy, apparently it didn't work out that way. I guess he didn't want to leave Maryland to go to LA. But you get Jesse Minter to come to Baltimore. Now it's in his backyard. He could come here. I'm just saying, some of these guys that you see here on this coaching staff, I don't think you get any of these guys. Maybe you get Anthony Weaver, but I don't know if you're going to get Mike Mickens out of Notre Dame. I don't know if you're going to get Dwayne Ledford or Sean Flair. I don't know if you get any of these guys if it was another head coach. If it wasn't for Jesse Minter who's putting these guys together and has some sort of relationship with these guys, I don't think you're going to be able to get this. And even the guys that he doesn't have relationships with, he literally is bringing in the best of the best in terms of what they do. He's bringing in guys that can do the job as opposed to guys that are been thrown around the league 15 times over. He's bringing in guys that are best fit for the role as opposed to guys that he's friends with and cool with. Can you do the job? Yes, you're going to be on the staff. And that's what Jesse Minter is putting together. So in terms of the potential of this coaching staff, it's like a 9 or a 10, obviously, because this might be, when they're finished, this might be one of, if not the best coaching staff assembled from top to bottom in the league. But it still has to translate on the field, so we cannot fully assess it based off of just the basic hires. We have to see what they can do with this roster. What can they do with this roster, this group of players? How can they turn this team around? The team that was expected to win the Super Bowl last year went 8-9 and missed the playoffs. How can they turn things around and get this team to the promised land? That's going to be their job year one, because this is a team that's competing for a championship now. And if they can't get over the hump, if they can't get back to that point, then it's going to be a bad, bad, bad look in Baltimore. That's why they took these chances and made these moves. But yeah, for me, I'm gonna sit back and say the hiring, in terms of rating the head coach, defense coordinator, offense coordinator hires, I'm gonna rate it 7. Not because I don't think it's better than that, but because I have to keep it open and give room for improvement based off of what they do. In terms of potential, sure, 10, 9 or 10. But in terms of what they've done so far, I gotta give it a 7, because I want to give that room for growth. I want to see these guys work with these players and then see the results of that. Once I see what this coaching staff does, obviously it can shoot up to a 10 if these guys look like the best in football by far. But until then, let's give room for improvement. But the Ravens do bring in Anthony Weaver to be the defensive coordinator here. We'll see how this is ultimately going to go. Again, Anthony Weaver was on this team the last time the Ravens were able to generate a pass rush and get to the quarterback with a four-man rush. So you bring him back. This dude has a lot of connections to a good chunk of people on the roster. He's a great leader. He's somebody the players resonate to. He's a great motivator. So he's going to come in and he's going to do all of that for Baltimore. So it's a great hire overall for the Ravens. It's a good job here once again by Jesse Minter, bringing in another strong candidate for this. Well, not candidate, but another strong coach to add to this staff. There's a few more spots that have to be filled up, and few more spots have to be filled up, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I think Jesse's gonna knock it out the park with whoever is left to be filled. Like with what he's done so far, I really do trust. With what he's done so far, I truly trust that he's going to knock it out the park. Now, based off of what I'm seeing right now here, everyone's been talking about it. The questions have been asked. When it comes to the quarterbacks coach, it seems like T. Martin's not returning to Baltimore. I've been asked this multiple times. It just seems like T. Martin is not the candidate that they're looking for, which is quite interesting there, because a lot of people are like, why not keep T. Martin here? T. Martin and Lamar Jackson have had a great relationship here throughout his time in Baltimore. He's been here since the beginning. He's worked with Lamar a lot. Shouldn't this be someone you keep? And I do understand. I do understand where a lot of people are. I understand where a lot of people are coming from that aspect here. But if we're going to make some serious changes here, and we're going to bring in a whole new philosophy, then I am all for. I am all for the mindset of let's move on from everybody and really take that step in a different direction to change things up. T. Martin was fantastic when he was here, and did a lot. Did a lot for Lamar. Did a lot for Lamar. But I think it's time to take that step outside of the comfort zone and really like lock in to bringing in somebody new. Not to mention, I think with the remainder of the offensive staff, I think Jesse Minter's going to look for a lot of these guys that have experience working with Declan Doyle. Because I think the quarterback coach that they're trying to work with also has some level of experience working alongside Declan Doyle. So if that's the case, it makes sense why they'll go after this quarterbacks coach. I'm trying to remember who they submitted an interview for. Honestly, it'll show up. It'll show up as the week goes on, because I think honestly, I really do believe they're going to finish his coaching staff this week. So as the week goes on, as the days go by, we'll find out sooner rather than later who's going to be the quarterback coach, the wide receiver coach, the tight end coach. I think for the wide receiver coach, they put in a submission to try to interview the Jaguars wide receiver coach, try to get him. I don't know about the tight end coach or the running backs coach. I don't know about the D-line coach or the outside linebacker coach. There's a lot. There's a lot. What's going on, man? Appreciate you stopping by. There's a lot that still remains to be figured out. The special teams coach is still not put in, so they have to figure that out. And I'm interested in seeing who they're going to go after. But Jesse Minter's put together one hell of a staff so far, and I really do appreciate how they're not rushing this. They're being very patient, and they're getting the guys that they want and the guys that best fit with what they're looking to get. Jesse Minter is doing a great job so far in putting this coaching staff together. I don't think everybody's going to be completely enamored with every coaching decision he makes. I don't think everyone's going to be completely happy with every single coaching decision he makes in terms of who he brings to staff. But at the end of the day, I think overall we'll look at this and say he's put together one hell of a staff and has done a great job there. It just depends on how this is going to resonate with the players and what work is going to be done between, when did they get started? April? Between April all the way to September. So, well, I guess March, because that's when the free agency opens up. So we'll see. Ravens staff looks good, but I'm wary of Declan Doyle, though he's only a year older than Lamar. Well, no, he's the same age as Lamar. Him and Lamar are both 29 years old. So, yeah, I understand why people would be wary. And I don't think anybody should be I don't blame anyone for being overly cautious with Declan Doyle. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people would have preferred them getting somebody with a little bit more experience. It was one of two things. Either you get somebody with a little bit more experience, or you get the exception. Anybody from the Sean McVay tree. If it was Nathan Shehas, I don't think anybody complains about that. Even though Nathan Shehas also has not called plays. People would have taken Nathan Shehas because he comes directly from the McVay tree. And as long as you come from the McVay tree, you are exempt from anything. I don't care if you never call plays. If you are from the Sean McVay tree, automatically, we overlook everything. Automatically, we overlook everything. If you're from the Sean McVay tree, there's an exempt. So I think there was always going to be a level of concern with whoever they brought. People would want someone with a little bit more experience, and for a guy to be the same age as our quarterback, and that is his offensive coordinator, it's definitely a huge gamble here. But I like taking gambles. I like taking gambles in sports because, it either pays off beyond anything you expect, or it falls short, and you gotta make those adjustments. But it's the best part about taking gambles is that you know for a fact that you will not be stagnant. I love taking those gambles because I know for a fact we won't be stagnant, which is exactly what Baltimore's been these last 8 years. We've seen progress. We've had our moments. 2023, we should have won the Super Bowl, and we just didn't get it done. And we weren't able to recover from that because the last 2 years it's gotten worse and worse. Last year, 2024, we failed to get it done in the division round. And then last year, we didn't even make the playoffs. So we've fallen from AFC Championship game appearance to losing in the divisional round to missing the playoffs. Obviously, there's been a level of stagnation that has hit the Ravens. We don't change anything. We don't change. We don't improve. We don't innovate. We don't make any adjustments. We don't change as a football team. We stick to the same thing and just run it back every single year. That is what the Ravens have been dealing with for years now. That level of stagnation needed to change. In this new era of Ravens football, They are embracing the unknown. They are embracing the possibilities. They are embracing the potential. They are embracing taking risk. That's what they're doing. Declan Doyle is a risk. Now, of course, this is a guy with 10 years of coaching experience, so it's not like he hasn't had the coaching experience, and he's been a coach in the NFL since 2019, so he has experience being a coach in the NFL. This is a guy that was working under Sean Payton, and then this was a guy that was working alongside Ben Johnson last year with the Chicago Bears in that offense. So he knows what he's doing in terms of developing and scheming and creating offensive plays and working with offensive players to maximize their capabilities and utilize them. He knows what he's doing. The only thing we don't know from him is what he brings to the table as a play caller, and that's the aspect that concerns people. I'm not concerned that this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not saying he's not qualified to be able to coach these guys. In terms of every other aspect that an offensive coordinator brings to the table, I know Declan Doyle can do this because he did it in Chicago and they were successful in that. So I know he can do that. The only concerns you would have with a Declan Doyle is the fact that he has not called plays. And that's the only thing that would concern me. But implementing a system and working alongside these players and creating schematic plays that are going to maximize the talent that we have on this offense, I fully believe he can do that right off the bat. I have no concerns with that. The only concerns you would have is come game day, how is he going to call plays? When it comes to late game situations, what's going to be the go-to move here? What play calls is he going to do? Is he going to lean on the run game? Is he going to create some space off of play action? What is he going to do? That's an interesting aspect there. And I think with Declan Doyle's offense, we're going to get to see a new iteration here for Lamar Jackson, and that's him primarily working under center. Chicago, I believe, with Caleb Williams last year, had Caleb working under center like 40% of his snaps. Let me see. Yeah, they had, yeah, it was nearly 50%. I think it was like 47, 48%. So the Bears had Caleb under center for like nearly half his snaps last year. He was primarily under center. So this right here, bringing in a Declan Doyle, as well as bringing in the Declan Doyle, as well as bringing in Dwayne Leffer and Sean Flatty to work with the offensive line. I truly believe Lamar is about to take that aspect. He's about to take a whole new approach in terms of how he's going to be utilized. When Lamar Jackson had Greg Roman as his offensive coordinator, he primarily worked from the pistol. When Lamar Jackson had Todd Monken as his offensive coordinator, he primarily worked from the shotgun. Now with Declan Doyle, what I expect is Lamar is going to be primarily working under center. And that is where they're going to initiate play action, under center. I'm very interested in seeing what Declan can put together. But I think it's time to have Lamar Jackson primarily working under center. I think that's the next step here. I don't think the offense should be similar to what we had under Todd Monken. Not saying that wasn't effective, but that doesn't make Lamar's job easy. When you have him primarily working under center, there's aspects that they can take advantage of, which they did do that in Todd Monken's scheme whenever they had Lamar under center. I think Lamar had like a passer rating like 140 when he was throwing from under center, when they would utilize play action under center. Lamar Jackson was on fire with that. They had a lot of plays that worked from the play action, from under center, both with the running and the play action passing game when Lamar was under center as opposed to when he was in the shotgun. So I think that's an aspect that they definitely can look to lean on, and I think that's an aspect that Declan Doyle is going to utilize. So yeah, Lamar with Greg Roman primarily worked from the pistol. Under Todd Monken, he primarily worked from the shotgun. Under Declan Doyle, I expect he's going to primarily work from under center this year. So many people that have been begging the Ravens to have Lamar and this offense work more under center, expect that to be the case this year. It's absolutely going to be the case. He had Caleb working under center for nearly 50% of the snaps, and with the coaches you brought in and the personnel you're going to try to work with here, it is definitely going to be a situation where Lamar is going to be primarily working primarily working with Lamar and this personnel under center. So we'll ultimately see how this is gonna go. I'm sorry. I'm passing by some stuff on Twitter right now as I'm looking for a few things, and I'm seeing that the Clippers and the Cavs are working on a deal to send James Harden to the Cavaliers, and then the Clippers would get back Darius Garland. So for some reason, the Cavs and Clippers are working on a James Harden Darius Garland swap. How would that help the Clippers? And I don't know how James Harden's gonna fit with that Cavs unit. But at the same time, they do need a point guard that can run the offense and facilitate. That's what that's what James Harden brings to the table. Darius Garland ain't really doing much of anything for them, and he's been relatively a liability. He can't stay healthy. Honestly, he's still a good player, but they're not getting over the hump with Darius Garland. Still, Harden, I don't know how Harden's gonna fit with that group, but we'll see. They're working on it. Breaking news: James Harden working with the Clippers on a trade to leave Los Angeles. Seems like they're trading James Harden. This came out of nowhere. Well, one way or another, James Harden ain't gonna miss the playoffs. So, yeah, the Clippers are working on a deal to get James Harden out of LA, which is unfortunate because I mean, Kawhi and James Harden have been working hard to get that Clippers team back in action, to get them back into the playoff picture, and they're at least within the range of a play-in team. So now they about to just, wow, James Harden to go from OKC to Houston to Philadelphia to the Clippers to now the Cavaliers. Well, then again, it hasn't been confirmed. It hasn't been confirmed if he's going to the Cavaliers, but it seems like he wants out. Yeah, getting here. Los Angeles Clippers, 11-time All-Star James Harden are they're working through both sides. They're working through whether the sides can find a deal by Thursday's NBA trade deadline. Both sides are aligned in conversations together and with invested teams with interested teams. So it looks like James Harden wants out. I don't know where he's gonna go. The Cavs have thrown in Darius Garland to try to go get James Harden. Don't know if they're gonna pull the trigger on that. But James Harden wants out, and they're looking to trade him before the trade deadline ends, which obviously is what, Friday the 5th? Sorry, not Friday, Thursday the 5th. Hmm. Interesting. Very interesting here. Anyway, back on topic here. What do you think of Todd Monken coming to Cleveland, coming from a Browns fan? Okay, this is honestly, I don't know. I don't know. This is a situation that I'm hoping works out for Todd Monken in Cleveland. Hopefully, he comes in and changes life. You're getting a good offensive coordinator, a good offensive coordinator, a good play caller, a guy that's going to create a scheme that is going to work best for what you need from Shador or whoever's going to be the starting quarterback. The expectation from a lot is that Shador is going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns next year. But we'll see how that goes. Either way, Todd Monken, again, he's a great offensive mind, great creative guy. Um, he's going to create an offensive game plan and an offensive system that's going to work well with whoever's going to be the quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be so grand to the point where it's going to change the complete scope of whatever you're going to see offensively from Cleveland. I don't know if they have the talent to be able to maximize that. I don't know how their personnel's looking. They do have talent, but I don't know how their personnel's looking overall. I have no idea what he's going to do head coaching wise, but I will say this: he's a great football mind. This is a guy that loves football. This is a guy that has that old school mindset, and this is a guy that's going to speak his mind, be honest, and take accountability when things aren't working. He's not a guy that's going to shy away from accountability. If he's screwing up and not doing his job, he is going to speak on that and say, I'm not doing my job. I got to be better. I take full responsibility. So I think they're getting a good guy that fits the criteria of what you would want out of a head coach. But again, this is his first time being a head coach. He's been in the league for a long time. Well, he's been in and out. He's had a lot of NFL experience as a coach here, but he's never had head coaching experience, and I have no idea how this is going to work overall for Cleveland. Uh, I don't know how it's going to work overall for Cleveland. The thing about it is, I don't know what Cleveland's trying to do here. I don't know if they look at Todd Monken as their long-term option, where they're like, I want this guy here for years to come, or if this is a situation where Todd Monken's gone in 2 years. Is this a Houston situation? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the game plan is. If this is who they expect to be here for a long time, then I really hope it works out. But this could also be a Houston situation. You remember when Houston they hired a head coach once they got rid of the previous era. They got rid of Sean Watson and moved on from the head coach, and the whole Bill O'Brien situation. They moved off of that. There was like a 2 year period, where like a 2 or 3 year period where they had some sort of head coach that was just a placeholder there. The expectation wasn't, oh, this team is gonna win anything major. It was like, we just need a head coach here so we can kind of go through the motions. We got a bunch of contracts that are expiring, guys that we want to move off of. We want to bring in some new talent through the draft and maybe through free agency, and kind of work through this. So like the Texans had a placeholder at head coach. Can't remember his name. I can look that up. They had a placeholder as head coach. David Culley and Lovie Smith. Those are the guys. They had placeholders as head coach while they kind of forced out that level of. They had a bunch of guys during that time they wanted to move off of. They wanted to draft a lot of young talent, bring in some young talent from free agency, and they wanted to do that while they looked for that next young head coach that's going to come in and be the placeholder, be the real legitimate coach that's going to take the Texans to where they want to be. So David Culley and Lovie Smith were kind of just there as the head coaches, as placeholders until they found their guy in DeMeco Ryan. Next thing you know, they draft C.J. Stroud. They dropped a lot of great pieces on the defense, and now in the what 2-3 years he's been the head coach. Not even 2. In the 3 years he's been the head coach, his team's gone to the playoffs every single year, and they won a playoff game. So, yeah, this might be a similar situation, because there were some guys that had some potential to be, the next head coach. It seemed like the Cleveland Browns maybe wanted to go with a young offensive-minded guy, but at the end of the day, they looked at the current roster and said, we might want to wait a little bit and see if we're in a better place in a few years. We can get off some of these contracts, see if we can bring in younger talent. Maybe Shedeur is our quarterback, maybe not. If he is our quarterback, 2-3 years later, when we move off of Todd Monken, guy will be better developed, and we can bring in the coach that can help take him and the Browns to a new level. If Shedeur is not the quarterback answer, then in 2-3 years they will be in a situation where they could get a new quarterback and then bring in a new guy. So if they're trying to pull the Houston move, then Todd Monken's going to be here for like a year or two. If they're not trying to pull the Houston move and they really think this is the guy that's going to help, get them to where they want to get to, by all means, he'll be here for 5 years. I think he's qualified to at least, do the role as a head coach, but I got some concerns. This is a first-time head coach at the age of 60 that's coming in. This isn't a young offensive mind. This guy's been around the block for a long time. He's set in his own ways. He's creative, but again, he has his own system. He has his own way of doing things, and he's going to go about it. There's some concerns about what Todd Monken does as a play caller, which I'll let you guys figure that out yourself. But I still think he's a great offensive mind, creative offensive mind. He knows what he's doing with offense. He's going to create a system that's going to work with whoever his quarterback is going to be, and I think he's going to have a team that can at least play some competent football. I don't know how he's going to be as a head coach because he's never been in this role before, but again, it seems like he has a great affinity for football. He's been around the block for a long time, and this is a guy that takes accountability and holds himself responsible when things aren't going the way it needs to be. So I think he at least has the passion for it. So we'll see how it goes for Cleveland. I really hope it works out for them because, I like Todd Monken, but I don't know how it's going to be. That's just my assessment of things. Hopefully Jim Schwartz stays at this point. He's probably not. I think they pay him an extension, and only other place he can go is the Raiders, but hopefully Clint Kubiak has somewhere else in mind. Oh no, Clint Kubiak's most likely going to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. It's all but certain. That's the guy they're going for. It's the job he's going to take. They can't officially sign Clint Kubiak until after the Super Bowl, but it's all unless he's back between now and the next week, because today's Monday. Within the next week and a half, Clint Kubiak is expected to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So that one seems to be a done deal. Unless he changes his mind within the next week, Clint Kubiak is going to be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And that's for the Jim Schwartz situation. I mean, hopefully they can have a discussion, but it seems like Jim has no interest in being here anymore. No interest. He has no interest in working under Todd Monken. You brought in another older guy to try to you brought in another older guy to try to, mellow out the situation off after moving off of Stefanski. I mean, whoever Clint Kubiak gets as defense coordinator, I don't know. It's going to take a while before we figure out who Clint's going to go after, because first he has to get established there, and then he's going to have to take a look at the staff in terms of what he may want to change. And right now, this is the thing. This is why you couldn't wait for Clint Kubiak. For all the people that wanted to wait for Clint Kubiak, look at the coaching situation right now. Who are you going to get? There's still coaches out there, but what staff are you going to put together at this point? There are some teams that are still scrambling to put together a staff. If Baltimore had waited for Clint Kubiak, who would we have gotten? What staff would we have gotten? People thought we should wait for him. At the end of the day, I stepped back and said, take whoever you feel is best. I said Jesse Minter. I said Clint Kubiak. I was fine with either or. Baltimore looked at this and said, we can't wait. Yeah, it'd be cool to have an offensive mind, but this is a guy that has connections with us. He knows what he's doing. He's got everything set and a mindset and focus that is needed. Let's get him now and assemble this coaching staff. Imagine Baltimore waited for Clint Kubiak. You'd be waiting until after Super Bowl, which means you'd be waiting all the way until February. What coaching staff are you going to put together? Now, for Las Vegas, again, he'll find somebody to put in those roles, and they're not a team that's looking to compete now, so it's not like he needs guys immediately. But they're going to slowly build that up. And as for Jim Schwartz, I don't see a situation where he stays. It's not even about a money thing. At the end of the day, they brought in an old guy to take over as the head coach when he actively applied for that head coaching spot as well. And I think it depends on what Cleveland told him. If they told him they were going for a younger offensive mind, I think he would have been fine. If the Browns would have hired Nathan Sheehan to be their head coach, Jim Schwartz would have been fine with that, because that assumingly was the plan. But then you go hire another old dude who's never been a head coach to let him be the head coach of this team over me? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a situation where Jim Schwartz is going to agree with this. Yeah, he's still got he's still under contract, but if the guy don't want to be there no more, you might want to look somewhere else. That guy may look to breach his contract, and if he got to just be sitting at home not coaching anybody, he may look to do that as opposed to coming back in. Now, hopefully they can convince him. I don't know if that's going to be enough, because again, hiring Todd Monken was it was the last straw. He was not going to stick around for this. So I don't know if this is going to work in their favor, but it's not looking good right now for the Jim Schwartz situation, but who knows? Maybe they'll be able to work through it, and he'll at least, choose to stay this year and maybe help out, but maybe he's gone next year. I don't know. That's a situation Cleveland's going to have to deal with. Best of luck with the Jim Schwartz situation. If he chooses to move on and he wants to be gone, then you just help out however you can. Man, this is crazy. I I don't even know where this came from. Why does Harden want to leave? This is crazy. Oh my God. I really don't know what led to this. What led to him wanting to be traded? This is crazy. You know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm just seeing this, and nobody has any inside news about why Harden wants to leave. They were playing some of their best basketball. They were turning things around. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, out of nowhere. He wants to be traded. I mean, if it was a if we were talking about him wanting to be traded back in November or early December, it made sense. The team looked like it was going to miss the playoffs. But over the last 25 games, they've been one of the best teams in basketball. They've completely turned things around. And now they probably told him to shave his beard. That's a funny joke. I'm surprised, man. It is what it is, though. Anyway, we'll see how that develops. If he gets traded, well, I ain't gonna talk about it. But like, if he gets traded, we'll see where he goes. Anywho, I think that's it for me today here in regards to this hiring. There's not much to really say about Anthony Weaver. This is a guy that was in your locker room as a coach during the best defense that you had during the period in which you had the best defense in the Lamar Jackson era. I mean, we know what he brings to the table. We saw when he was here. We all said he should be the defense coordinator when Mike Macdonald left. They chose Zachary Orr. They waited too long and let Weaver go to the Dolphins. We know what he brings to the table. We know how he's going to help impact this defense, and it's great to have this hire. I wish there was more to say, but again, this isn't a Declan Doyle situation where we got to speak on other things he does because we don't know what he brings to the table. We don't have a connection with them. But with Anthony Weaver, we do have a connection. We know what he's capable of. We know what he brings to the table because we saw it when he was here. So this is just bringing back a former coach, a former player and coach that was successful here, that we know what he brings to the table, and probably should have got the defense coordinator job 2 years ago. So, we're just righting a wrong. Jesse Minter's calling plays, but even if he struggles, Anthony Weaver can do well enough so the defense is back. Yeah, again, I don't expect Jesse Minter to struggle calling plays. That's not going to be a problem. He's a defensive coordinator. He's been great as a defensive coordinator, both in college and in the league when he was with the Chargers. I don't think Jesse Minter is going to struggle with play calling. That's his strength. If there's, like, again, he may struggle with decision making as a head coach when it comes to managing the game. That's why he's hired a game manager, a game managing coordinator. He hired that as well to help assist with that. But in terms of challenges, time management, 2-minute drills, timeout usage, those decision makers to go for it on fourth down, take the points, whatever, go for 2-point conversions, those type of decision makings. We may see Jesse Minter struggle with those early on because those are big decisions that head coaches have to make. But Jesse Minter's not going to struggle calling defensive plays. That's what he does. He may struggle with making decisions on whether or not to go for it on fourth down when you're in field goal range as opposed to taking the points. We may see some indecision there. He may struggle as to whether or not we should just take the extra point, or go for 2, depending on the circumstance. We may see him struggle in some early head coaching duties, but he's not going to struggle calling plays. That's his strength. That's why he's here. If there's anything that separated him, that got him the job, it's that. That's a defensive-minded head coach that knows how to call plays as a defensive coordinator and had one of the best defenses in football with the Chargers for 2 years straight. So he knows what he's doing. I don't see this as a situation where he's gonna struggle to call plays defensively. Nah, if there's anything he'll struggle with, it's game management and decision making. If there was to be a struggle, for all we know, he could knock it out the park. But if there is going to be a struggle, it would be with his head coaching duties as opposed to his defensive play calling. But we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, there's not much to really say about Anthony Weaver because we already know what Anthony Weaver brings to the table. We were here. Well, he was here when the Ravens, had that Triple Crown defense. Like, it's not a surprise that they brought him back because we know what he brings to the table. We know what he brings to the table. So it's just great to have him back in Baltimore, and hopefully this goes well. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me. I don't think I have anything else really to say. I just wanted to do a basic stream here. Kill an hour of doing a basic stream about Anthony Weaver being here. I think overall we will have to do a final assessment of Jesse Minter's coaching staff once they put it together. So be on the lookout for that. Excuse me, I'm really tired. Be on the lookout for that. I wonder if Khalil Mack comes to Baltimore. Don't know. That will be the next topic of discussion once we get the coaching staff together. So the next live stream that I'll probably make, unless we get some breaking news about some crazy stuff like Lamar Jackson extension or whatever, unless we get that, the next thing I'll probably do in terms of a live stream will be either a random discussion topic or it will be an update on the final coaching decision. So once Jesse Minter puts his coaching staff together, I will. Well, I can't look at it. Well, today's Monday, so I don't know if it's gonna be. Yeah, I'm saying the next time I'll stream will be when they put something together, unless something randomly comes up and I feel the need to stream. But the next time I'll probably stream will be when Jesse Minter puts his whole coaching staff together, which I'm assuming he's going to get that done this week. If not, obviously it will linger on until next week. And obviously the Super Bowl's on Sunday, which I'll be here to stream that. But other than that, not much really to say here. Hopefully they finish putting together their staff this week and we can finally have a full topic of discussion about all the guys that they brought in terms of where they came from and what they can bring to the table in terms of the position that they were hired for. So we'll do an overall assessment for that. But as for Anthony Weaver, welcome back. You should have been our defense coordinator 2 years ago. I don't know why they didn't give you the job. I'm glad you're here now. Work with Jesse Minter to whip this defense into shape, turn them into one of, if not the best units in football, and hopefully, we can get this done and turn this unit into one of the most feared defensive units in football, and hopefully that will lead to this team getting a Super Bowl sooner rather than later. Who knows? With that being said, I'll lock my laptop here. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Kind of feels like a light day. It was really an hour long, but it felt like 30 minutes. Didn't really have much to speak of here. Anthony Weaver is somebody we all know. I'm not speaking of anybody that's new. It's not like I have to speak on Declan Doyle where it's like, okay, he's new. We don't know what he brings to the table. He's never called plays, so we have to go and talk about his experience with Sean Payton and his experience with Ben Johnson and how much he contributed to Ben Johnson's offense last year. I don't really have to say much about that. Anthony Weaver, we know what he brings to the table. He's a former player. He was here when we had the 2023 defense. He was here when our defensive line could actually get to the quarterback with a four-man rush. The last time the Ravens D-line was great at getting to the quarterback, he was the D-line coach. So you just brought him back. We all said Anthony Weaver should be the defensive coordinator when Mike McDonald left. They chose Zachary Orr. You're right or wrong. He's back. Great to see him again. So we'll see how Jesse Minter finishes things off with this roster. And then once he does that, we'll have an overall assessment with that. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining the live today. And I will see all of you later. Don't know when I'm going to see you next. Maybe Jesse Minter makes the rest of the hires, and I'll be back here tomorrow. But we'll just have to wait and see. Or maybe we'll get some news of Lamar Jackson getting extended or somebody getting signed, like maybe Tyler Linderbaum gets a deal. I don't know. We'll be here to cover it if we get any breaking news about any player signings or anything major. So be on the lookout for that. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys later. Be sure to stay safe and peace out.